channel. My name is Anna, aka Brookwillow, and today I have a co-host, Kevin James. James is his middle name. This is a little bit of a spontaneous episode that I'm doing today. I actually had plans to go out to the city, Minneapolis, because it's Mitch's birthday, but this morning I woke up and Kevin here was limping and licking at his paws a lot, so upon further inspection we discovered that he had ripped pads on his paws, I think from the dog park yesterday. So he's all bandaged up now, but I decided to stay back just to keep him comfortable and happy and not alone, because I think he's just feeling a little bit under the weather. But anyways, let's get more into knitting. That's why I decided, well, if I'm going to be here, I may as well make a podcast. And I've been working on a lot of things, and I have some finished objects, so I thought it'd be worth all of our time to record something. So let's jump right in. How about it? So I'll start out with what I'm wearing today. This is the Camisole number 2 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. This is nothing new. You've seen this, I believe, in a February episode before I went to Florida, and I knitted up with Knitting for Olive's CottonMerino. I don't remember the color, but I will link it below. As you can imagine, this has been a wonderful summer knit. It's about 90 degrees here today, and I feel just fine wearing this. So yeah, a perfect summer top. What do you think? So like I mentioned, I do have 2 finished objects. The first one being the Forest Keys vest by Teti Lutsak of Teti's Knit Garden. Here it is. And then I'll show you the back as well. So again, this one isn't new to anybody who's been watching recently. I think I cast this on in May, and it did take a bit longer than I was expecting, especially since it was just a vest. I'm like, oh, I don't have to do sleeves or anything. This one's gonna be a breeze. However, there is color work on it, and there's 3 different ways that I had to do color work. Starting with the top here, it was knit flat, and so was the back piece. It was knit flat, so I had to do color work one way and then purling with color work every other time. And I haven't purled with color work before. It wasn't that hard. It wasn't even so much of a pain, but it's definitely not as fun as knitting color work in the round. And then I came down to this center emblem right here, which is knit, oh, what's the word? Intarsia in the round. I've never done intarsia in the round, and I discovered that I definitely need my hand held throughout patterns. When I got to this part in the pattern, it didn't list right there how to do color work in the round, so I kind of made up my own crazy way of doing it that really wasn't efficient. And I'm like, halfway through, I'm like, there's no way she did not list how to do this, because there's a lot of people who wouldn't just know how to do this, and I feel like patterns need to do it. And I was getting almost upset about it, but then I decided to read in the description at the beginning of the pattern, usually that I skip over quite a bit. It did have links on how to do this, so I looked up the link, and then it was so much easier once I knew how to actually do it. So knitting intarsia in the round, not so bad if you look up the right tutorials. And then at the end here, we finally reached knitting color work in the round, and it was a breeze from there. But I finished the whole piece and I'm like, okay, great. All I have left to do is an I-cord bind off. No biggie. It'll take me like a day to do it. That was definitely not the case. 2 weeks later, I was finally finished. This isn't like your average run-of-the-mill I-cord bind off. It had 6 stitches total on it that you were knitting the tube and attaching it, but you needed to use double pointed needles, which usually isn't an issue, but the only ones that I had in the correct size were metal from, like, I think they were my grandma's. They're so old. And they just kept slipping off the project and flying off the project. And I was so frustrated. Like, Mitch knew, like, don't talk to me when I'm working on this because I was like a short fuse. But basically the only way I could make it work was like stacking a bunch of pillows in my lap and just having the work right here with me where I could like stab the needles into the project when I wasn't using them. And that was the only way that I got through it. It took me 2 weeks to do this bind off and I was so like frustrated, but it really does give such a good effect. And I'm gonna show it to you up close here. So it is a really nice bind off. Here's the bottom. As you can see, there may be some mistakes in there, but it was necessary. If you follow me on Instagram, you may have seen a somewhat melodramatic post about this when I first was done with everything and after it was blocked. I don't know if it was like the way I blocked it, but there were some weird wrinkles in it and the puckering looked especially bad around the neckline. It's not quite as bad anymore, especially now that I actually wore it. I decided to wear it, like I made this piece, I may as well just wear it to work one day. And once I put it on, I was like, oh my God, I actually love this so much. The way that it lays over my chest just kind of fills out the weird puckering. And I don't know, it definitely smoothed out over the course of time too. So now I'm absolutely obsessed with this. I first wore it to work with a t-shirt underneath that I'll insert a picture of it right here. And then I wore it just on its own without any t-shirt underneath. And I think I went out that night in downtown in the city that I live in, and it wasn't too hot. I was worried about this being such a rustic yarn that I was gonna get super hot, but I think it also just breathes super well. So speaking of yarn, I used Retrosaria's Pegulhal. I feel like I always pronounce that wrong. I also forget the color numbers because they're just numbered, but I will link the colors below. As far as the coloring or the colors that I chose, I was definitely heavily inspired by Teti's original sample piece. I used the exact same brown because brown is like my favorite color right now. And then she used a darker shade of this color. It was almost like a burgundy. And I decided, since I wanted it to be kind of more of a summer piece, I thought I would go with a lighter orange. And I'm really happy with how it turned out. At first I was a little bit nervous that the colors were blending too much together. And that may be a little bit of the case, but I think seeing the whole thing together as one piece, I really do like the colors that I have. So that's my first finished object. Okay, so my next finished object, I feel like I whipped out in just a week, which is a little bit unheard of me. I think I am I'm an average speed knitter. What's the word? I don't know. I'm not fast, I'm not the slowest, but I'm probably more slow than I am fast. Anyways, I just needed something that I could just knit and turn my brain off. I feel like I've been working on a lot of complex pieces and for like the past year, and I just wanted like a true TV knitting project that I could just take anywhere and not really have to think much about it. And I found the perfect pattern for that, and that is the June top from PetiteKnit. So here it is. This is the front of it. And then this is the back of it, which is pretty similar. It just has a slightly lower scoop in the back than the front. Yeah, so this was great. She just came out with this in June, as many of you may know. And I don't want to give away the pattern too much, but there was a lot of stockinette stitch in the round, and you started at the bottom and worked your way up, and that's just a perfect way to start this particular project because I could just cast on the stitches and go and just not think about it. This one does also have an I-cord bind off, but I believe it's just your standard run-of-the-mill bind off. It took 2 days to do compared to the 2 weeks of the Forest Keys knit. Yeah, I love this. I think it fits great. I haven't really taken enough like quality finished photos for Instagram yet. Maybe I'll do that today since I have this time on my hands. I just haven't had time to do it. I did post one photo that you can kind of see it right here. I just really liked the way the color was working with my denim vest and the camel colored pants that day. I thought the colors looked really nice together. I am not much of a pastel person. I don't usually gravitate to pastel, even in like my home design or anything. I like more rich earthy tones or darker tones, but this yarn was sent to me from KnitCrate, and I did talk about it quite a bit a couple episodes ago, so I won't get into it too much, but it is a cotton linen blend, and again, similar to this tank top right here, it's so enjoyable to wear in the summertime because like a lot of people think, oh, knits you shouldn't wear in the summer because you're gonna get too hot, but it's linen and cotton and it just feels great. So I am very happy with how this turned out, and I think I'll definitely knit this in the future. I think it's gonna make a really nice, like kind of basic to wear underneath maybe some other cardigans or blazers for work or jackets. I don't know. It's not just a summer piece. It's definitely something I can wear throughout the year. So very happy. It didn't really take a ton of yarn. I used less than 2 skeins that I got from KnitCrate. So if you have some KnitCrate yarns and you don't know what to use with them, there'll be more than enough yarn for this, and I think for all the sizes as well. Just to be clear, I made this in an XL, if you're wondering about sizing or anything. I make most of my clothes in an XL. I think I'm more, like my body size may be more of a large, but I like things to be slightly oversized, and knowing that this is PetiteKnit, I know she usually does things oversized, but she did mention that this it has negative ease to it, is what I should say. One thing I would change next time, and she did mention this in the pattern to try it on, but I was too lazy, is make these straps a little bit longer. As you can see, this just kind of cuts right under my armpit, and I think I want like a little more space under there. But this is a great shirt also for people who don't like shirts that tend to come way down. If they want more coverage, this tank top definitely gives you coverage for it. I have two active whips that I'm working on. One of them being the color field hand towels from Pearl Soho. I am not going to show you that because I have in the last two episodes and I haven't really made enough progress on it to show it. I'm probably not going to show it again until I finish it. But there's one new whip that I haven't shown yet on YouTube. But if you follow me on Instagram, you would have gotten a glimpse of it. So I have talked about wanting to cast this on. I think a lot of you may know that I bought this like insanely blue yarn last fall when I was up in Grand Marais. There's a really cute yarn shop called Dappled Fern Fibers. They are like right on the water there, and everything is just curated really nice, the yarn that they carry in the store, and it's just bright and airy and I love it. And I so wish I lived up there because they do a lot of like knit circles and stuff down by the water, and I saw that they're having a knit retreat at like a super cute cabin, but oh, I wish I could go, but I just don't have the money right now to spend on that. Anyways, I bought this yarn. It's from Lichen and Lace, and it's the Huckleberry colorway in their merino worsted weight. So I'm going to show you the color up close here. Let me get, hopefully you can see that. There we go. So something really called to me with this yarn when I first saw it. It just reminded me of the night sky. One thing I should also mention, like, I know I say I don't really gravitate towards pastels. I also don't really gravitate towards jewel tones either, but something about this, like, just lit me up and I couldn't resist. So I bought it, just one skein, and then I finally figured out what I was going to make with it, and I bought 3 more skeins. So now we are ready to rock and roll and finish this piece. So what am I making with it? Let me just make sure it's right side up. This is going to be the Sun Gazer sweater. This one is really hard to show as a work in progress. It's not like a pretty work in progress, not like a yoke sweater or anything like that. And that's because you knit this center square and then you have all these rays coming out, and they're all knit in like different pieces essentially. So here it is. This is a pattern by James N. Watts. Here's a lovely picture of him wearing it. I think I must have been slightly inspired by the color he chose in his as well, which is maybe why I thought to make this with it. I have made this before in all different like neutral colors that were from like a Malabrigo silky yarn. Here's a picture of that. And I love that piece that I made. However, I wasn't completely satisfied, or I wasn't like done with the pattern yet. I definitely wanted to make it in more of an oversized piece and maybe one color that was color changing. I do think the other version that I made kind of created like a pinwheel pattern, which is cool, but I think I really wanted something that was just one solid piece. And the other one came out a little bit smaller than I wanted, but I did increase the size that I made on this. So his sizes run from 1 to 4, and I'm making a size 3. I also went up a needle size because I'm using thicker yarn. I think his originally calls for a sport weight, and this is a worsted weight, so I needed larger needles. I went up 2 needle sizes, and I think it's creating the size that I want. So this is like about where it's gonna be, and then this sleeve starts right here. I kind of wanted to make this into a long sleeve top if I had enough yarn and have it still be like very cropped. I don't really have an option so much how long this is going to be. It's kind of going to be like a standard length. But if I had like long sleeves that kind of were the same length, so they billow out just slightly at the end. I thought that would be really nice, but I'm not positive I'm going to have enough yarn, and I don't really want to buy more yarn and pay for shipping and stuff because it comes from Canada, so it's a little bit more expensive, but we will see. If not, I still will be more than happy to have this as a short sleeve as well. So that's pretty much all I have for works in progress. But I do have some future plans as well. I am wrapping up all of my summer knits. I know it's still July, but in order to have things ready to wear by fall, I kind of need to start making it right now, especially because I am slightly slow knitter. So I have had this cone of yarn for a very long time. This is a Mohair from Knitting for Olive in a rust. I don't remember the name of it, but I held one strand of this with some other yarn when I made the cotton grass jumper by PetiteKnit. And I definitely overshot how much yarn I needed. Like, this is a lot of mohair. And I've always wanted to make something with just mohair. I'll be honest, I know mohair is kind of like all the rage right now, but I'm like kind of getting sick of seeing it paired with like every sweater out there. Maybe that's like a hot opinion, but it's my opinion. So I know it's a little bit contradictory that I want to make a whole sweater out of mohair, but I want it to just be mohair, and I want it to be very like ethereal and almost see-through a little bit. So I decided that I think I'm going to make my first ranunculus. That is another thing that when I first really started watching knitting YouTubes, it seemed like literally everyone was making ranunculus. And at first I'm like, I don't really get what like the huge hype is. Like, yeah, it's a nice shape and there's like a little bit of texture at the top and they look really cool, but like the craze around it was kind of astonishing to me. And it took some time and like many projects later that I've seen people make, and I think I'm finally on board with making one, especially because on her Ravelry page, there's this one that is made just out of mohair, and I think it's so freaking cool. And I want to use this to make a long sleeve version of that I can wear just like a black bodysuit underneath and just have this flowy top on top. I think it'll be a very good like shoulder season transitional sweater. Obviously it's going to be a little bit more loose gauge and air will breeze through, but the fibers in the mohair I think will keep me warm enough for like say a 50-degree day or I don't know, something like that. But that's what my next plan is to make after this sun gazer tee. And then I have another sweater lined up after that already. So I am going to Colorado at the end of October to visit my best friend. She lives out there. She was born and raised out there. That's where I met her because I went to college out there and we became best friends forever. And we make a point to visit each other every year. So she was who was with me when we went up to Grand Marais last year. And now this year I'm gonna go see her. So we're gonna stay at an Airbnb like deep in the mountains. It's just this small little town and I think it's like dirt roads everywhere. So super rustic. And since it's at the end of October, we're gonna be high in elevation. I know it's going to be cold. And I have been wanting to knit a sweater out of Wilderness Knits for the longest time since I got this book last year. But I just had so many other projects that were on the needles. I never got around to making anything at an appropriate time. But I think I'm gonna have more than enough time to complete something from here. So I did pick something out, and I believe it's called the Matawaka. I could be pronouncing that wrong, but here is what it looks like. I feel like this is going to be a perfect sweater to debut when I'm out in the mountains. It's going to be super warm because I plan on using the recommended yarn, which is Let Lopey. And I did actually order some of that this morning. I went online to just start like deciding what colors I wanted to knit from this. And then I'm like, well, I've already figured it all out. I may as well just pull the trigger and buy it. And that way I'll for sure have it, and I won't have to risk any of it selling out, because more and more people are probably going to start buying it because we're gonna soon be getting into the cold season. So I'm very much looking forward to making that. Maybe by the next episode I'll have yarn and I can at least show you the color combo that I put together for that, because I did stray away a little bit from the recommended colors on here. But I think no matter what color you put together, it's going to look great. And I think that's the case for all of Linka's patterns, especially in this book. So very much looking forward to that. And I just have one acquisition this week. I got another KnitCrate box, and so I just wanted to show you what I got in that. So here it is. It's this very light pink yarn. It is their Vitellana Silhouette. It's 50% superwash merino wool and 50% tencel. So I think this will still be a good yarn to wear maybe in the summertime or any time of year, really. It is so soft, I can tell you that. One thing you may notice though is that this is extremely pastel, and I literally just said I don't love pastel. I desperately wanted the red color that they had in this line. They had 4 options for colors, and you don't get to choose which color you get, which is kind of exciting. It's like a raffle in a way, like, ooh, which color I'm gonna get, and obviously you're not gonna always get what you want. But yeah, I wanted the bright red color that they had, but this is fine too. I'm not gonna complain. I did set these down next to some other just skeins of yarn that I have, and I really liked the way it looked with it. So first of all, this is a skein of hand-dyed yarn that I got from Paisley Knits, and I thought it looked really nice with that, so maybe I could do something with that. I know this is a sock base yarn, so I could almost like use this one here for the toes and the heels and make a pair of curio socks with this being the background color. I think that would look really nice. But I also had it next to this yarn as well, this brown. And I liked the way this looked too, because this brown seems to have some pink tones in it, and this pink color kind of brings it out. So I do have options to use this in color work for some potential projects down the road. I just have no idea what I want to make with it yet. So if there's any patterns out there that you think would look really nice with that pink yarn and maybe even combined with these, maybe drop a comment below and I would love to take some suggestions. Just as a reminder, I am an ambassador for KnitCrate. So full disclosure, they do send me a box every month. And they also want to give you all a deal as well. So if you click the link in my description below, it will bring you to their page, and if you sign up for their monthly crate, you'll get a free mystery box for that first month. So it's kind of like a BOGO, which is really fun. You can get 2 boxes for the price of 1, and you can cancel or pause your subscriptions anytime, so you don't have to commit to that monthly box every month. If you want to just shop on their website, I do have a code. It's Brookwillow, and that'll give you 20% off an item from there online. Or is it the whole purchase? That's pretty much all I have for today. I'm sure this one's going to be a bit shorter, like maybe under 20 minutes short. I feel like I was talking really fast through the whole thing, but I just wanted to say thanks again for watching, and if you really like what you see here, hit thumbs up. That does help me out and kind of gets my videos out there to new viewers. If you are a new viewer, welcome. Thanks for being here. If you like what you see, hit the subscribe button and you won't miss out on any future content. I think I'm gonna go outside and do some spinning on my drop spindle because I just watched the 100 Acre Wool podcast, and she has been doing a ton of spinning and it re-inspired me, so I want to get back into spinning. I actually almost bought a spinning wheel this week, but I had to talk myself out of it because I just don't really have the money right now to buy a whole spinning wheel, but I definitely have the urge. But yeah, thanks again for watching, and we'll chat next time. Bye!